Hi everyone, Merril Hoge in a little different setting this time, but it's still a setting that I love. It's watching tape and it's on a big screen. And what we're doing here is football IQ. We're going to try to help some of the fans and viewers that may hear terminology but not quite understand what they're referring to. So what we'd like to focus on the defensive side of the ball is terms you might hear. You might hear a dime package, you might hear a nickel package, or base personnel or regular personnel. So we're going to explain what do those mean. Dime refers to, and when you hear those numbers, oftentimes refers to how many defensive backs are on the field. Now, if we first look at the Patriots, here's a situation where the Steelers have dime personnel, so there's 6 defensive backs. Why is dime referring to 6? I don't know. Why wouldn't it be nickel and a penny? I can't answer that, but they have chosen dime to be the calling card for 6 defensive backs. So the first thing you have to look at, why would they play 6 defensive backs? Oftentimes, it's the personnel that is on the offensive side of the ball. So if you look here, the Patriots actually have 4 wide receivers. So having 4 wide receivers is probably what is sparking the Steelers to have 6 defensive backs, and they only have 1 running back. But these 4 wide receivers are really probably what is driving the Steelers to put 6 defensive backs. So as you look at the defensive backs the Steelers have, you account for all 6. And they only have 3 linebackers on the field. One here, one down here on the outside, and here down at the bottom of the screen. So they're lining up their personnel really based on what the offense is doing here because of the 4 wide receivers. Now we go through the play. They don't play man coverage. They end up playing a zone coverage concept, but they do a great job of getting quick pressure on the quarterback. So that 6 defensive backs, the dime package, really is driven by having 4 wide receivers on the field. All right, let's go to another play, and we're going to talk about nickel package. If you ever hear an analyst or somebody's doing the game go on broadcaster, there's 5 defensive backs or nickel. Now that does make sense because nickel is 5 DBs. And we start with the offensive side again. How many people or what's their personnel on the field? That usually drives what a defense will do as far as personnel. So if you look at the Ravens here, they have 3 wide receivers here at the top of the screen. And then they actually have a tight end, which is down here, even though he's flexed out, and the running back. So the 3 wide receivers are probably what is driving the defensive backs or the Steelers to match up with 5 defensive backs, not 6, because this guy being a tight end, because there's no 4 wide receivers, probably drives the 5 defensive backs. So when you hear nickel package, that's 5 defensive backs, and it's usually driven with 3 wide receivers and a tight end. And it also depends on how good this tight end is too, how big he is, and all those other variables. But standard-wise, when you hear nickel, 5 defensive backs, wide receiver, probably 3 of them, a tight end, and a back. So that is the personnel from the offensive perspective is really the thing that drives a defense to do what they do. Now the next thing that you'll hear teams or people call out is just base personnel. Again, you start with the offense. What does the offense have on the field? That's probably driving what the defense has. So we'll get to regular personnel from a defensive perspective. First, look at the offense. What do they have on the field? They only have 2 wide receivers. So they don't have 3, they don't have 4, they just have 2. But they have 2 tight ends. So these 2 big tight ends down here along with this back is probably what is driving a defense, and here the Pittsburgh Steelers, is just to have 4 defensive backs. So they have 4 defensive backs because they really want to have more linebackers. So in this case, you're going to have your 4 linebackers that traditionally you'll have, especially when they say that they're in their base personnel. So the offense again drives what the defense does. And in this case, the regular personnel means they have 4 defensive backs because of the 2 wide receivers and 2 tight ends. Devin Bush makes a great play here. The other package is 5 defensive backs. Oftentimes the offense has 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a back. And when you hear dime, which not a lot of teams play dime, it's because they have 4 wide receivers on the field and just 1 back. So this gets you an idea of when you hear terms like that, why a defense is playing like that, why do they have those guys on the field. It probably is predicated because what the offense has put on the field as well.